When we think about America before Columbus, before the ships from Europe, our minds often picture wild forests, scattered tribes, or empty landscapes waiting to be discovered. But that's a false picture. Long before Europeans arrived, the Americas were home to extraordinary civilizations, builders, astronomers, warriors, and artists who left behind cities, temples, and mysteries that still captivate us today. In this journey, we'll explore three of the greatest civilizations of the ancient Americas, the Maya, the Inca, and the Aztec. Each one flourished in different parts of the continent. Each one left behind monuments and achievements that continue to amaze archaeologists, historians, and travelers alike. In Part 1, we begin with the Maya, the people of the rainforest who reached for the stars. The Maya civilization arose in what we now call Mesoamerica, a region that covers southern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, and El Salvador. Dense jungles, humid lowlands, and rugged highlands formed the backdrop for their world. To survive and thrive here required ingenuity. The Maya learned to adapt to their environment, developing complex agriculture, trade routes, and urban centers that rose like islands out of the green sea of the rainforest. The earliest Maya villages date back as far as 2000 BCE. But it was during the Classic period, 250 to 900 CE, that the Maya reached their peak, building city-states with populations that rivaled or exceeded those of Europe at the time. Unlike the centralized empire of the Inca, the Maya were not ruled by a single king. Instead, they were organized into city-states, independent kingdoms connected by trade, culture, and often rivalry. Cities like Tikal, Palenque, Copan, and Calakmul became powerful centers, each ruled by a divine king called the Kuhulaja, the Holy Lord. These kings claimed to be chosen by the gods, and their power extended over warriors, farmers, artisans, and priests. The architecture of these cities was breathtaking. Towering stone pyramids rose above the jungle canopy. Palaces, ball courts, and observatories filled the plazas. To walk through a Maya city was to be surrounded by grandeur, and by the constant presence of religion. Religion was at the heart of Maya life. They believed the universe was divided into three realms, the heavens above, the earth where humans lived, and the underworld below, known as Xibalba. To maintain balance between these realms, humans had to communicate with the gods. Kings and priests performed elaborate rituals, often involving bloodletting, the offering of their own blood, to nourish the gods and ensure cosmic harmony. The Maya were also obsessed with time. They developed some of the most sophisticated calendars in the ancient world. Their long count calendar could track time across thousands of years. They believed history was cyclical, with ages of creation and destruction repeating again and again. For the Maya, time wasn't just numbers. It was sacred. Every day carried spiritual meaning, every festival was tied to cosmic cycles, and every ruler was expected to act in alignment with the rhythms of the heavens. If you were to stand in the city of Chichen Itza during the spring equinox, you'd witness something extraordinary. As the sun sets, shadows crawl down the side of the Great Pyramid of Kukulkan, creating the illusion of a serpent slithering down the staircase. This wasn't an accident. It was deliberate engineering, a perfect alignment of architecture and astronomy. The Maya were expert sky watchers. They tracked the movements of the sun, moon, Venus, and other celestial bodies with incredible accuracy. Their observatories, such as the Caracol at Chichen Itza, were designed for stargazing. Their calculations of solar and lunar eclipses rivaled, and in some cases surpassed, those of contemporary civilizations in the Old World. For the Maya, astronomy wasn't just science. It was prophecy. The stars told them when to plant crops, when to go to war, and when to perform rituals. The Maya were also one of the few civilizations in the Americas to develop a fully written language. Their hieroglyphic script combined logograms and phonetic symbols, capable of recording complex histories, myths, and royal lineages. They carved their words into stone monuments, painted them on pottery, and wrote them in codices, folded books made from bark paper. Tragically, when the Spanish arrived, most of these codices were burned as works of the devil. Only a handful survive today, like the Dresden Codex, which contains astronomical tables, calendars, and rituals. Through these texts, we know that the Maya preserved vast knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and history. They were the first in the Americas to use the concept of zero in mathematics, an invention that placed them far ahead of much of the world at the time. But what about ordinary Maya life? Beyond kings and priests, millions of farmers, artisans, and traders kept the civilization alive. The Maya diet was based on the three sisters, maize, beans, and squash. They also cultivated chili peppers, cacao, and avocados. Cacao, in particular, was treasured, used both as a luxury drink and even as currency. Imagine a world where your money could be cocoa beans. Maya artisans were skilled in pottery, weaving, and carving jade. Traders carried goods along rivers and overland routes, connecting the jungle cities with the wider Mesoamerican world. And then there was the ball game, played with a rubber ball on large stone courts. It was both a sport and a sacred ritual, symbolizing the struggle between life and death, day and night. Sometimes, it even ended in human sacrifice, offered to the gods as part of cosmic drama. By the 9th century, many great Maya cities in the southern lowlands were abandoned. The reasons remain debated: overpopulation, drought, warfare, environmental collapse, or perhaps a combination of all. But the Maya people themselves did not disappear. Their descendants still live across Central America today, speaking Mayan languages, practicing traditions, and keeping alive the memory of their ancestors. The Maya were visionaries of time, space, and spirit. They built towering cities in the jungle, read the heavens like a book, and recorded their history in stone. Their legacy is one of brilliance and mystery. In the next part of our journey, we will climb even higher, to the towering peaks of the Andes, where another civilization, the Inca Empire, built their world among the clouds. Part 2. High above the clouds, in the rugged spine of the Andes, lived a people who built one of the largest and most sophisticated empires in the ancient world. They had no wheels, no written alphabet, no iron tools, and yet they created a network of roads that rivaled Rome's, cities that still amaze engineers, and a society that held together millions of people across thousands of miles. This was the Inca Empire, or as they called it, Tawantinsuyu, the land of four quarters. The Inca heartland was the Andes Mountains of South America, stretching through modern-day Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. It was a harsh environment, towering peaks, steep valleys, unpredictable weather. But the Inca turned this rugged terrain into the foundation of their power. They learned to farm on mountainsides by creating terraces, step-like platforms carved into the slopes. These terraces conserved soil, captured water, and allowed them to grow maize, potatoes, quinoa, and hundreds of other crops at different altitudes. In the Andean world, altitude was everything. What you could grow depended on how high you were. The Inca mastered this vertical landscape, turning it into a giant, natural greenhouse. The Inca began as a small tribe near Cuzco, a fertile valley high in the Andes. According to their legends, they were children of the sun god, Inti, who sent them to bring order to the world. By the 1400s, under the leadership of rulers like Pachacuti, they began a remarkable expansion. In less than a century, they built the largest empire in pre-Columbian America, stretching over 2,500 miles, from Ecuador to Chile. How did they do it so quickly? Through a mix of military strength, clever diplomacy, and efficient organization. Conquered peoples were integrated into the empire, taught the Quechua language, and woven into the Inca system of roads, taxes, and labor. The true backbone of the empire was its road network. The Inca built more than 25,000 miles of roads, crossing deserts, mountains, and forests. These roads were so well constructed that many are still visible today. Suspension bridges made of woven grass stretched across deep canyons. Relay runners, called chasquis, sprinted along these roads, carrying messages and goods. A chasca could run several miles, then hand off a message to the next runner, allowing information to travel hundreds of miles in a matter of days. It was the internet of the ancient Andes, a network that kept the empire connected. When most people think of the Inca, one place comes to mind, Machu Picchu. Hidden high in the mountains, this city was unknown to the outside world until 1911, when it was revealed to modern archaeology. Its terraces, temples, and stone walls seem to grow directly out of the mountain itself. The precision of its stonework is astonishing. Massive stones were cut and fitted so perfectly that not even a blade of grass can fit between them, and this was done without iron tools or mortar. Machu Picchu remains a symbol of Inca ingenuity and harmony with nature. Whether it was a royal estate, a ceremonial center, or both, it reflects the power and vision of the Inca world. The Inca Empire was highly organized. At its top stood the Sapa Inca, the emperor, believed to be the son of the sun god. His word was law. Beneath him was a vast bureaucracy. Governors oversaw the 4 regions of the empire. Census takers counted people, animals, and crops. Taxes weren't paid in money but in labor, through a system called the mita. Every household owed the empire work, farming, building roads, serving in the army. In return, the state provided security, storage of food in vast warehouses, and aid during times of famine. It was a system both strict and efficient, one that held together millions of people across diverse cultures and landscapes. Without writing, how did the Inca manage such a complex empire? They used the quipu, a system of knotted strings. Each quipu consisted of a main cord with dangling strings of different colors and knots. These knots recorded numbers, tallies, and possibly even narratives. Trained officials, called quipukamaics, could read them, keeping track of harvests, labor, and population. The quipu was both a calculator and a memory device, proof that writing isn't the only way to store knowledge. The Inca worshipped many gods, but the most important was Inti, the sun god. They built temples to him, including the magnificent Coricancha in Cuzco, whose walls were once lined with sheets of gold that reflected sunlight brilliantly. Religious ceremonies involved offerings of food, animals, textiles, and, in some cases, human sacrifices. One of the most striking discoveries of recent years has been the mummified remains of children sacrificed on mountain peaks, preserved by the cold for centuries. To the Inca, these sacrifices were not cruelty but a sacred gift, ensuring balance between the human world and the gods. For all their strength, the Inca could not withstand the arrival of Europeans. In 1532, Spanish conquistador Francisco Pizarro captured the Emperor Atahualpa during a meeting, despite being vastly outnumbered. The empire was already weakened by civil war and disease brought by Europeans. Within a few years, the once mighty Inca state collapsed, its cities looted, its treasures melted down. And yet, not everything was lost. The Inca people survived. Their language, Quechua, is still spoken by millions across the Andes. Their agricultural terraces still feed communities. Their traditions, songs, and festivals live on. The Inca show us the power of human ingenuity. They took the impossible environment of the Andes and transformed it into the center of an empire. They built roads that crossed mountains, cities that touched the sky, and a society that functioned with discipline and unity. Though the Spanish conquest ended their empire, the spirit of the Inca endures in the people and landscapes of the Andes. In our final part, we will travel north again, to the Valley of Mexico, where the Aztec Empire rose with fire, blood, and ambition, creating one of the most dramatic stories in world history. Part 3. When the Spanish conquistadors first gazed upon the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, they could hardly believe their eyes. Rising from the middle of a lake, with gleaming temples, bustling markets, and causeways stretching across the water, it rivaled, and in some ways surpassed, the great cities of Europe. The people who built this city called themselves the Mexica. To us, they are known as the Aztecs, the last great civilization of Mesoamerica before the arrival of Europeans. Their story is one of ambition, resilience, creativity, and also of conquest, sacrifice, and tragedy. The Aztec story begins not in the Valley of Mexico, but far to the north. According to their legends, they came from a mythical homeland called Aztlan. Guided by their god Huitzilopochtli, they wandered for generations, searching for a sign that would reveal where to build their city. That sign came in the valley's marshy lakes, an eagle perched on a cactus, holding a snake in its beak. This vision, which still appears on the Mexican flag today, told them they had found their home. In 1325, they founded Tenochtitlan on a small island in Lake Texcoco. From these humble beginnings, they would rise to dominate central Mexico. Tenochtitlan was a marvel of engineering. The Aztecs expanded their island using chinampas, artificial floating gardens made of mud and reeds. These fertile plots produced maize, beans, squash, and chilies, feeding a population that grew into the hundreds of thousands. The city was laid out with causeways, canals, and aqueducts. In the center stood the Templo Mayor, the Great Pyramid, with twin temples dedicated to the rain god Tlaloc and the war god Huitzilopochtli. Spanish chroniclers were stunned by what they saw: markets filled with thousands of traders, streets swept clean, aqueducts bringing fresh water, and temples rising above the city like stone mountains. It was, at its height, one of the largest cities in the world. The Aztec Empire was not a single kingdom but a triple alliance formed between Tenochtitlan, Texcoco, and Tlacopan. Of these, Tenochtitlan quickly became dominant. At the top stood the Huitzilopochtli, the Great Speaker, or Emperor. He was both political leader and military commander, expected to lead conquests and expand the empire. Beneath him, nobles, priests, and warriors held power. Merchants, called Paktika, traveled long distances, acting not only as traders but also as spies. Farmers and artisans made up the backbone of society, while slaves, often war captives or debtors, performed the hardest labor. Aztec society valued discipline, education, and military skill. Boys were trained as warriors, girls in domestic and religious duties. Everyone had a role in serving the empire. The Aztec Empire was built on conquest. Through war, they extended their control over much of central Mexico, demanding tribute in the form of goods, crops, and captives. The Aztec army was highly organized. Warriors advanced through ranks by capturing enemies in battle. The most elite fighters were the jaguar and eagle warriors, adorned in fierce costumes that symbolized their strength and courage. Conquest was not just about land or tribute, it was also about sacrifice. Captives were taken alive, brought back to Tenochtitlan, and offered to the gods. Aztec religion was complex, with a pantheon of gods representing the sun, rain, fertility, and war. But above all was the struggle to keep the universe in balance. The Aztecs believed the sun required nourishment to rise each day. That nourishment was human blood. Sacrifice was not seen as cruelty but as a sacred duty, a way to ensure the survival of the world itself. Ceremonies could involve hundreds or even thousands of victims, their hearts offered atop the Templo Mayor. To us, it may seem brutal, but for the Aztecs, it was the ultimate act of devotion. Despite their reputation for war and sacrifice, Aztec life was rich in culture and creativity. The Aztecs developed a written language using pictographs and codices, recording history, tribute lists, and religious rituals. They were skilled in poetry, music, and dance. Education was mandatory, rare for the time. Every child, regardless of class, received schooling. Markets in Tenochtitlan offered everything from food to precious stones. Cacao beans, cotton cloth, and quetzal feathers were prized items of trade. Chocolate drinks flavored with chili were a favorite of the elite. And like the Maya before them, the Aztecs loved the ball game, part sport, part ritual, symbolizing cosmic struggles. In 1519, Hernán Cortés and his band of Spanish conquistadors landed on the coast of Mexico. With only a few hundred men, they marched inland, and through alliances with native peoples who resented Aztec rule, they reached Tenochtitlan. At first, the Aztec Emperor Moctezuma II welcomed them, unsure whether they were gods or men. But tension soon erupted into violence. After months of fighting, smallpox ravaged the population, weakening resistance. In 1521, the Spanish and their allies besieged Tenochtitlan. After brutal battles, the once great city fell. Its temples were torn down, its canals filled in, its treasures looted. The Aztec Empire was destroyed, but its people survived. Their descendants still live in Mexico today, speaking Nahuatl, practicing traditions, and honoring their heritage. The Aztec left behind a powerful legacy. Their symbols and myths became central to Mexican identity. The eagle, cactus, and snake, the sign that led them to Tenochtitlan, adorn the flag of Mexico today. Their achievements in engineering, agriculture, and culture continue to inspire. Their story reminds us of the complexity of human history, brilliance and beauty alongside conquest and blood. So we have traveled through three great civilizations. The Maya, who mastered time and the stars. The Inca, who built an empire in the clouds. The Aztec, who created a city of wonders on the water. Together, they show us that the Americas were not a blank canvas awaiting discovery. They were home to powerful civilizations with their own science, art, religion, and vision of the world. Their legacies still shape the Americas today. And their stories remind us that history is not only written in books, but carved in stone, whispered in myths, and carried in the lives of their descendants. Thank you for traveling with us. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and share your thoughts in the comments.